Welcome to another JJ in the Field, timely agronomic tips when you need them most. I'm Jonah Johnson. This week we're back here in full swing of harvest again, just like we saw a couple weeks ago. We revisited the same field that, if you recall from our previous video, where we had aerial imagery showing you where we had pockets and areas of the field that appeared to look like prematurely died. You know, we had a lot of stress through the growing season in some regards. If you think about back in July, we had the first 2 weeks of July, 2.5 weeks for most of Ohio, was in that medium to low 90s with lows in the evenings in the 70s. And then we had a repeat of that in August. And so with the lack of precipitation for a lot of us here across Ohio with hit or miss rain events during those times, our corn was stressed in some of those situations. And so as we showed you last time across this same field where we're at again, we talked about stalk rots and a lot of over cannibalized corn plants that are falling over, hence a lot behind me that's degraded even more. And of course this is in a rougher section of this field that dealt with a lot of overall stress, anywhere from soil types, soil textures, things of that nature that's not going to allow the corn to perform as well as it would maybe on the bottom where a lot of the richer soils will reside in this field. But nevertheless, again, when we got eyes in the sky, you could definitely see, and especially from the crop health maps, you could see the degradation of the corn in variable pockets across the field. So some of the questions we've been getting the last couple of weeks since we started looking into these cornfields as the harvest has moved on is why is my test weight a lot lower than I anticipated? Because we've had great yields, overall a respectable growing season through the summer and this early fall. And so I thought we'd spend some time chatting about that today. So several things go into what happens later season in the cornfield. So as we mature into the reproductive phases and we get into that mid milk stage where the kernels are soft and full of water, and you kind of push on them and they'll squirt out at you at the milk stage. And so once we start to get into the dough stage and that pericarp, the kernel, that skeleton sets there, then it's all about filling those kernels. And so the weather after that event up to black layer, where we no longer send carbohydrates and energy into those filling kernels, is very important. And so in that R5 growth stage is about 30 to 45 days up to 60 days, depending on what the weather is and the temperatures are during that time period. And we're all hoping that we have some really good stay green in the field, and that we have our photo panels or solar panels, if you will, out there to encapsulate energy and fill those kernels. And so I pulled some ears in this field where we went into some of the areas that had more stay green left in the field, and that we saw that there was probably not as much stress, and that correlated to the aerial imagery that we shot last time we were here. And then I pulled some ears from the stressed areas in the field in multiple spots, and you'll see in the corresponding pictures, the images show that you can see quite a bit of difference in kernels. You can see different ear sizes, you can see smaller kernels on the stressed area of the field, and of course you have those deeper dents. And so once we have the pericarp set, those dents can be a good way to gauge how heavy our kernels are going to be. And so if we have lighter kernels, deep dents, that's going to be a lighter, fluffier test weight. If we have those kernels that are a shallow dent or they're protruding and bubbling out, that's going to be our heavier corn. If you look in the images of these ears, you'll see that in those better areas of the field that the plant stayed alive longer, where we had a much bigger ear, not always necessarily more kernels around per se, but you get those big thumbnail kernels compared to those smaller kernel depth that you see in the variation across the field. And so why is that important? And so number one, you can look at grain quality. So I talked a lot about this last growing season. So you look at a lighter yellow color, hence the stressed areas of those kernels, lighter yellow, lower grain quality. Darker yellow cheddar cheese look, that's going to give you that darker, that higher grain quality. And so the end users, the millers, and I used the example before, like the chip makers like Tostitos in southern Indiana, they want that higher grain quality because that's going to make a better chip and not break as easy if you had lighter test weight, lower grain quality that they may use to make their chip products. And so when you do the test weight test, whether it's electronically or in your volumetric measuring standardized cup, when you got slicker, healthier kernels, they're going to pack tighter in that volumetric measuring device, and that's going to give you that higher test weight. When you got kernels that are big, fluffy, rough in appearance, lighter yellow color. A lot of times are a coarser outer shell to that kernel. You can't pack as many down into that cup, hence you'll have lighter test weight. So a lot of this stress that we had during the summer in July and August for most of Ohio is some of the issues I saw that probably led to some of this variable test weight. So also we think about the disease that we had across Ohio this year, whether you're in northern Ohio with the tar spot instances we had in the high levels, southern rust in the southern parts of Ohio, and then not to mention gray leaf spot in northern corn leaf blight. So even guys that sprayed fungicides still had disease that occurred later after the fungicide residuals degraded in the corn. So again, that's reinforcing that's something going forward that we keep an eye on these cornfields. If we need to use fungicides for disease management, if we need to use nutritionals or stress mitigators to help the plants stay more consistent across your acres. And so those are just some thoughts I wanted to share with you this week. So if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to your local ASA or any of us on the PCT team. I'm Jonah Johnson. Thanks for watching.